Good evening, everyone. Warm greetings from Sathyabama Institute of Science and Technology, deemed to be University, Chennai. Well, my name is Dr. Joni. I'm working as an assistant professor in the Department of ECE, and we are very thankful to you and thank you all for your great support. Hope you are all safe and well at home. On behalf of the organizing committee, I take the privilege in welcoming you all to the live webinar on the management of information systems organized by Sathyabama IEI student branch in association with the Institution of Engineers, India. I also welcome Ms. Monica Satyani, who is the technical project manager at Facebook Incorporation, who is also the alumna of Sathyabama, who is going to handle this session. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you very much for the introduction, ma'am. I'm overwhelmed.
It is indeed one. Let me have a brief introduction about you, ma'am. Yeah, it is indeed a unique pleasure and privilege for us to express our sincere gratitude to our founder chancellor, Colonel Dr. J. Pierce, sir, who always showers us divine blessings. We take this opportunity to express our deepest gratitude and earnest thanks to our Chancellor, ma'am, Dr. Mary Zena Johnson, and the President, Sir, Dr. Mary Johnson, and our Vice President, ma'am, Ms. Maria Bernadette Johnson, for the continuous support and high endeavors in motivating us to organize these online webinars. And I take the privilege in introducing the speaker of today, Ms. Monica Satyani, who is currently working in the Facebook Incorporation, California, USA. She has completed her UG in the Tripoli at Sathyabama University in the year 2013. She has completed her Master's in Management of Information Systems in University of Illinois at Springfield. She has 5.5 years of experience in project management and product management. We are very happy to have you here as the proud alumna of Sathyabama. The session is all yours now, Monica, ma'am. It's time for you to take off. Over to you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And before I think we'll get started with the actual presentation, I would like to introduce myself to all the students. I know it has been like 86 people. Okay, the number is going up. So I'm glad that many people are joining for this webinar. And I would like to introduce myself. First, I will give a little bit of introduction before I start my presentation itself. So firstly, I would thank you for giving me this opportunity to host a webinar on the subject of expertise that I have to Sathyabama University. And also, I would like to thank Mr. Karthikeyan sir and Ms. Johnny ma'am for introducing me right now, and then also giving this opportunity and finding me over here to kind of talk to the students as well. I would like to talk about a little bit of my background, basically, where I come from and what kind of expertise, what have I gone through, what kind of subject I have gone through, and then where I'm studying right now. I'm Monica Satyani, and I'm from Andhra Pradesh. I've pursued my bachelor's in Tripoli, which is electrical and electronics, from Sathyabama University in Chennai. I belong to 2009 to 2013 batch. I did move to Hyderabad after that, and I worked in various companies like Global Logic Private Limited as an analyst in 2016. And after that, I also moved to a different field, which is not at all related to project management, which is as a news presenter in one of the reputed Telugu channels. And after that, I found my core interest, that is management information systems. I wanted to pursue my master's, and then I flew to US to complete my management information systems in University of Illinois Springfield from 2016 to 2018 batch. So after I graduated, I landed up in a healthcare company, which is a Kaiser Permanente, which is a reputed healthcare company in California. And I did for a couple of shorter while, I kind of worked as a project coordinator, where I've learned a lot. And then I moved to Facebook. Now it's been kind of more than a couple of years in Facebook as a technical project manager. I'm successfully kind of handling multiple projects over there. So that's all about my introduction. So I think we can start jumping into the real subject that I wanted to kind of give a little bit of. I'm not a pure expert on this, but I think I would love to share what I've learned all these years. I'm sure it would help some or the other person. So yeah, let me share my screen a little bit.
Yeah, you're able to see now. Yeah.
Okay,
Can
cool.
roll.
Thank you very much. So I will, since our topic is about project management, management information systems, I firstly wanted to deal with project management, right? So why am I dealing with project management is because if you're taking a course of management information systems, huge role of project management is involved in it, basically. I wanted to kind of give you a gist of what project management is all about. Like, I wanted to go a little deeper into the introduction about project management, right? So what is a project management? And everybody would be like, oh, it's so easy kind of a thing. I mean, it's not really easy as what you think, right? It's just overseeing. So few people think that it's just overseeing people's work, or few people might think that it's something that we are kind of just looking at the work of other people, what they're trying to do, and then when they're completing, oh, this is how the report happens. That's not all about project management. I would say it's a creative way of dealing with people to make your project successful in a certain amount of time with certain constraints and limitations, right? Now you would be like, oh, why do I wanted to like, why am I terming it as a creative process? Why is art or entertainment not a creative process? No, project management is the most creative way of dealing with things, right? That's because you are kind of you're not just a project manager, you are dealing with people, which means you are a people's manager, and you really want to lead a project successfully by assigning different tasks or goals to resources, and then you're trying to assign certain amount of time, right? Like, you have a budget in your hand and you have everything in your hand, but you're given a certain limited amount of time, and then you wanted to make sure that the project is completed. Now what do you do, right? I will give a best example of that. Just imagine that our daily lives, we have so many different small projects we are dealing with, right? Think about our mothers, right? Every day in a daily life, we deal with our mothers, and our father is providing her a certain amount of budget, and he's giving her all the liberty. Okay, you have a hall, you can decorate anything, right? Now she's like, okay, I've been given a budget, I've been given a 2 month of time frame or 1 month of time frame to make this happen. Now she wants to design the hall in a way that it's looking so beautiful, and he has given already a theme that I need Indian authentic style of way of looking. The hall needs to look so Indian. You need to get all the stuff related to that, our culture. Now what she does, she tries to pick. Now she looks into each and every detail of it, right? Like every little detail, literally. She tries to make things that she wants to have that in a right design. She wants to align them when she gets some stuff after buying them. She wants to also work with the proper, like, get proper workers to shift the household items, what she has already purchased. So, which means she needs resources, right? People are resources, nothing but. Now she has budget and she started planning. What do I need? So there is a certain amount of space in her living area, and she wants one wall to have sofa, which she needs, which is a must have. And now the other wall needs a painting, which has a different way of, which is just beautiful. It just needs to look beautiful. So now she's like prioritizing. Now, why do you need sofa? It's a comfort level. It is also giving us a level of usability, right? So she's kind of putting down some points. Why do I need sofa? Now, she thinks sofa is the most important thing. Now she's prioritizing it as a high priority item. and she's getting more budget to it, right? And the other one is a painting, which she thinks that it's good to have, it'll look beautiful. Now she's allocating a little bit of lesser budget compared to sofa, and she's making it as a little low priority or medium priority, right? So now what do? Now she's planning, she's way ahead in planning. She knows how many workers she need to kind of get the sofa purchased and get it from the shop and put it in her living room, right? So she's planning everything within the budget. Now at the time of execution, she's going to the shop, she's buying them. So within 15 days, she's planning, okay, I need to buy sofa. The next week, I need to buy a painting, or the next week, I need to buy some other decorative item. So she's planning everything according to her needs, right? After that, she's organizing. Once the workers are actually start bringing the household items, she starts organizing everything where they need to be, right? Now she's doing in certain amount of timeline that her husband has given, meaning our fathers has given, right? So now she's executing it. Now, after everything has completed, what else? What if tomorrow the sofa is broken, or any kind of, if it's getting dusted or anything? That falls into maintenance, right? So now she's also allocating a little bit of amount of budget, which will be helpful for her in the future, right? Long story short, it's a small project in our life, right? It's a small project which we have executed in our daily life. So each and every details that we do in our life are related to projects. And today, the larger companies have larger projects, and you deal it in a different way. That's it. But there is not a bigger difference, but you deal with different methodologies. Similar way, if you're applying for a college, right? You generally are given a budget by your father to kind of go to a university, pick up a university according to your course of like whatever, what kind of department you want to choose, and your budget. So what you're doing, you're researching about the universities, you're picking up some universities, you're trying to shortlist them. You wanted to know what is the criteria. And there are so many other factors that you look into, like what is the faculty, what is the infrastructure. Now you try to see how to fit into the budget of your father, right? Also, when you're applying for the college, you try to make sure that you're providing all the documentations, you complete it, and now you're waiting for the result. That's another small project. The other project is when you're recruiting a staff member to any college or any IT company. When you're recruiting a new member, you need a certain amount of budget. You need to interview them, and you need to kind of shortlist them. And you try to make sure that they're falling under the criteria, right? So these all are small projects. One another bigger project when compared to all of these things is constructing a building, right? When you're constructing a building, you have, what does the project manager look into? You have material, you have workers, you have certain amount of cost, right? And you have been given by the house owner a design. I need this requirements. Requirements are nothing but needs, right? The house owner is saying, I need this kind of, I need a certain particular kind of design within certain amount of time. Within 2 years or 1 year, I need this house to be constructed. Now, what does the construction manager do? He tries to make sure that he has certain, within the budget, he has workers, within the timeline he's executing. And now he's also trying to look at the material, right? Here again comes another picture, which is called risk management, right? Now, what if the person who is dealing, the manager who is dealing over there, does not have bricks, which is coming from another vendor, another third-party company, right? He does not get bricks at the time of the construction, and in between the construction is on hold. What do you do then? So there is a catch, right? That's why project managers have risk management even before, at the time of planning session. planning phase of the project. That's where they try to estimate their risks in the project. They assume the risks and tell, what if I'm running out of bricks? What if the bricks are not provided by the vendor? Or what if the transportation is delaying the bricks? Then what should I even do? That's when he plans for a contingency, right? He tries to make sure that he has plan A, plan B, plan C. He makes sure that the project is not stopping because of the risks. And he makes sure that the project is moving smoothly, and he's overlooking everything. Like he's making sure that he's looking and making sure that everything is done in the perfect time without any time lags. So now that we have actually spoken about planning, designing, executing, implementing, and maintenance, right? So when we are talking about these 5 phases, which are very important, it will be applicable to software projects or hardware projects, any different projects that we have, right? Planning is something that we make sure that we know exactly what the project is all about. We try to, for example, there is a software project, right? And you're getting that project, and you know the requirements of the business owner, and you're planning what is necessary, and you're going into the design phase of the software application. You're executing it with your developers. Now you're implementing. Now maintenance is nothing but you're having a support team. So every project has certain factors that comes into picture, like consideration, right? So you need to first know what is the scope of the project, what kind of project you're going into, you're taking up. What are the requirements of the stakeholders, or so-called business owners, right? So for example, there is a company, and you're going into a team, or you're going into an organization. Maybe you might be a CEO, right? So your project managers, what they do is that they try to understand the scope of a project. When they are given with a project, they try to interact with stakeholders. Stakeholders are nothing but people who are already having good knowledge about the business process in that organization. And they try to, they know the exact problem which their organization is already having, right? They know the problem statement in that organization. And now they wanted to kind of elevate with any kind of solution. Now they're coming to project manager and they're saying, okay, so and so. Now, for example, I can give you a COVID-19, suppose there is a hospital, right? For example, just giving you a little clear picture. There is a COVID-19 situation right now, which is happening. Everybody's panicking. Everybody wants to test themselves with COVID-19 test kits. Now everybody, in the hospital itself, what they do is when they're having a toolkit, they're trying to test it out with the toolkits that are provided within their budget, right? When a patient is coming to entering a hospital, and he's going and he's getting tested out. Now, what does administrative people do in hospitals, right? They try to enter the information in their registers. What if the hospital is having a very manual process, of entering in a book or paper, right? All the information, people are coming for testing, right? Now business owners know that entering patient's information on a book or paper is a very bad process. They know that it's going to be a problem in future. They would not, what if the book or register gets lost? Or what if any kind of fire accident happens, right? So now they want that information in a database. So they want an application to be developed, right? Now a project manager comes into picture. Business owner comes to them and they'll be, okay, this is a problem statement. We have very manual way of entering data. Now we need a tool where we are entering patient's information and we are having all the information within itself, right? So what do? Project manager tries to understand what information needs to be entered, what kind of fields need to be designed in UI of the application itself, right? So he needs to understand what is the business process, why they have problem, why this project itself started, right? What is the reason? What is the objective of this project? Now he needs to quantify, okay, so now I understand the scope of it. What is the budget that project owner is providing? That's one another thing that he needs to think about, because he needs to hire a developer. He needs to have a tester. He needs to have a designer for the tool, right? For the UI of the tool. So he needs to hire certain resources within itself. So he needs to have a certain budget. So now that project owner has given a budget, right? And they have told within 6 months, you need to complete this project. Now he's kind of going into this planning phase. How much should I even like, what kind of work goes into it? What kind of design is necessary for the business owners? And then what kind of execution, how to execute this, like what procedure or methodology we need to make sure that this project is not stopping. And he's also evaluating risks, thinking, what if the cost or budget is, we are running out, or what if resources or one of the resources actually not feeling well, then we need to have a plan B, right? We need to have another employee to support that. So he's basically evaluating all the risks and going forward. And he's delivering the project. And he's also planning for the maintenance phase, where he's hiring some support team. And then he's making sure the tool is working, right? So these are the examples I would provide. Always take factors taken into consideration are scope, cost, and timeline. That's the first three things any project manager would think about when you get a project, right? And the next questions that he always would ask, why is this project even starting? What is the problem statement or scenario that we need to solve? And what is it that we are solving? When are we solving even? And where are we solving, right? Is it for a state government? If the projects are with the federal government or state government, we need to understand exactly where are we even solving this? And what are the rules and regulations associated with it? What are the laws around it? What are the policies associated with it? What are the procedures associated with it? And how we are resolving. How is nothing but execution, right? How he's even planning it in an effective manner. So I would sum up project management as planning, management, organization. Now it's like a choreography of a sequence of events, right? Where everything goes smoothly and then steadily, one step after another one. In corporate environments, when you're talking about this project management, it is most typically how much knowledge you're having, what kind of expertise you have on tools, and then what kind of techniques you're using, because there are n number of techniques that a project manager can use according to the organization that he's working, right? And what kind of project needs are being met according to the activities daily we are dealing with, right? Now, I think I'll talk about project manager, since that's the most important thing that we are talking today. Is why do we need a project manager, right? Who is a great team leader, or how do we become even a project manager? Everybody would be like, oh, project manager, it's so easy. I know people would be like, oh, it's so easy. You're just foreseeing or looking at people who are working, and you're really not working. Not at all. It's more than what you think. You're actually putting all your project on your shoulder. It's like any risk will be borne by the project manager. That's what I would say. That's how it is termed. Basically, he would be the accountable and responsible person for delivering the project, right? Now, why do we call them as a great team leaders, right? There is a reason for it. he kind of deals with different types of people. He would talk with different types of people, different mentalities, and different behavioral people, right? You really don't know. You might have 10 characteristics of people working in one team, and yet you need to get efficient and productive outcome from them. So you always need to make sure that the team is working, right? Now, that individual is making sure that they're applying best practices always. So, for example, there is a project management institution. I would always recommend you guys to probably do a little bit of research on that. There are a lot of certifications that you can do by yourself, which is like Scrum certification, project management certifications, or business intelligence or business project management certifications. You can ITI. You can still go through those certifications, and that will be really helpful for you guys in future, if you wanted to, if you're interested in, like, pursuing this career path. So the project management institution, coming back to the topic, that institution from years and years, it has been defining what are the best practices in the industry itself, right? Like what kind of how they have been maintaining and updating everything according to the current scenario of organizations. Like before, they used to have a little bit of different best practices, but now they have been updating according to the industry that we are right now heading towards. How, like, because it's very competitive right now, and we have more best practices that are coming into picture. Exceptional team leader takes time, energy, and then he invests money basically to kind of make sure that he's getting the right training, right? Why is training very important for a person? Because if he has to go into any kind of industry, right? If suppose he wants to enter a health sector, that's very important. He needs to understand the business process of the health sector. If he's actually entering into an insurance company, he needs to understand exactly how the business runs. If he's going into a banking sector, he needs to understand how the business runs. Only then he can deal with the projects, right? He needs to understand what are the current rules and regulations in the market, how the banking sector is running, what kind of projects are happening. He needs to be aware of each and everything, right? Each and every project that's happening currently. So he needs to be updated, basically, and he needs to get trained in various n number of subjects, I would say, because a project manager is never, he might not be coding, or he might not be developing exactly. I mean, he might not be able to write a code, but he will always try to be a jack of all. I think that's the right terminology. He's a jack of all. He always knows about the subject he's talking about, right? He will do his enough research, and then he will talk about it. That's how I would term it as. He might not be able to write a code or test a code, but he knows how to test it. What are the tools used to test it? And he would estimate the time frame of testing as well, so that he can provide estimates for delivering a project. So he's basically getting knowledge on everything, every little detail of the project. Now, what are the responsibilities, right? What are the responsibilities that any project manager needs to kind of understand or probably have? As I was saying, he needs to identify the business owners, right? He needs to know who is the business owner, who is a subject matter expert in that organization. Once you go in there, there might be a number of people, but there might be one or two who has an immense amount of subject knowledge on that particular organization and the infrastructure it has. And he might know exactly what kind of what kind of business process or gaps that organization has, right? And he should be able to plan things well. He should be able to organize things um, according to the uh, need or priority that we might have, because there might be 10 number of requirements that will be, or needs that will be given by stakeholders or business owners. He needs to understand which is first, because the impact every requirement that's creating for the organization or the budget or the amount of time that you're putting needs to be more than the other requirement, right? And he needs to be able to prioritize things well. He needs to be able to manage. He needs to do control assessment. Control assessment is one another thing that I would say, which is very important, because sometimes you might run out of budget and you really don't, you might want to ask more budget from your business owner. Then what do? You need to reassess, why have we run out of budget? Have we not done something right? Or are we doing something wrong? Or have we gone somewhere? Have we overutilized the resources? Or have we overutilized the budget? Right? So we need to understand each and every details, so that he needs to understand and he needs to analyze situations. He should have, the most important thing is that he needs to have most common sense, um, human intelligence. That's what I would say. Um, and where things are going wrong, right? He needs to make sure that he's, right from the beginning, he's taking a look at it and why everything is going wrong. And risk assessment, as we already thought, he needs to make sure that he's assuming the risk in the first place, and then he's trying to have plan A, plan B already planned, even forefront, right? Even when the project is getting executed. Now, delivering, that's one another thing. It's very important. If a new application has been designed, and I was giving an example, right? When a COVID-19 application has been designed in a hospital, you need to, while you're delivering, you need to make sure the end user, who is the end user, who is going to use the tool, right? You need to make sure that they get proper training on that tool and they are understanding everything about that tool, right? That's one thing which is very important. If not, the tool is not really useful. So you need to make sure that the end users, like the people who are using tool, needs to really understand why that has been designed and how it is useful for them and how can they use that. Today everybody is using Facebook and Instagrams, right? How do you guys like use it very seamlessly? Because they have already introduced us to those things, and we know which button to exactly click. Every time they release a new feature, they try to provide you exactly the guidelines. Click here, or click the next button, right? So that's how the end user needs to know exactly what he's doing. If not, the tool is not going to be used properly. Now, when you're talking about, I would like to talk about a little bit of competences before we go to interpersonal skills, right? Competencies of a project manager, I would say he needs to have proper knowledge on what kind of domain he's going into, any industry he's going into. He needs to well research what work he's doing. The second thing is performance, what he's accomplishing with that knowledge he already has, how he's even applying that. The third one is personal behavior. Why do I say behavior is very important is that you're dealing with n number of people and you need to make sure that you are behaving in a way that you're getting the work done. You know, that's very important, because not many people would talk about behavior, but behavior is really important when you are dealing with people. That's something, the most, when you're getting interviewed for any kind of companies, they try to ask you questions in a way that they are assessing your behavior, basically. So that's very important if you guys are looking forward to come into this, into this project management. Now, let's talk about interpersonal skills of a project manager, right? What do you even need? You'll be like, it's very easy. I would behave however they wanted to. But no, a great leader should always have a vision, right? He needs to know exactly what he's going towards, what he's heading towards, basically. Like, if you want to be a great leadership, you need to be if you want it to be have a quality of great leadership, basically, you need to have active listening as a first and foremost quality in you. And you need to also empathize towards the employees that are working towards you. Why do you make a great leadership? I mean, there are bad leaders, there are good leaders as well. So how do you differentiate? This is how you differentiate them, right? You try to make sure that you're flexible for your team or anybody that you're working for. If that's a high priority task, you need to make sure that you're empathizing with them, and then you're trying to make sure that you're resolving that issue, right? And you're acting according to the situation. You need to make sure that you are acting according to situation. That's one another thing I would say it's very important. The next one is team building, right? I know team building, every interview of IT, you need to tell them that I'm a great team builder, right? That's very normal and very easy thing that everybody wants to kind of hear from you guys. You'll be like, okay, great team building. But I think if you're unable to mingle with the team, you're not really a great, you're not going to be a great leadership. You're not going to be a good team leader or project manager. So even though if you're working with 10 different personalities, you need to make sure that they're comfortable with you. They are able to share great creative ideas with you. So you need to make sure that your team is very comfortable with you, right? The next one is motivated. What if a person who is not having enthusiasm or passionate towards a project? So initially, when everybody will get like new project, you'll be very enthusiasm. You have a lot of passionate within yourself, right? You would be like, okay, I will take this up. But at the end of the day, or in the middle of, what if the project is going for 1 year, right? And then in between, after 6 months, you will be like, okay, I started getting bored. No, it's not the way how project managers or team leaders should be, because if you don't have enthusiasm or passion towards what you're doing, your team will obviously not have it, right? You should be able to motivate your team um, and your business owners so that equally they give that interest, and then they get convinced, right? The next one is communicator. What if he should be a very great communicator, because he should be able to exactly communicate what the other team is talking about, right? If you're not a great communicator, there were projects which went on hold or which have been delayed or which have been stopped. There are n number of projects which have stopped because the project manager is not a great communicator. There can be a lot of conflicts that arise, right? So you need to convince and inspire them with the communication that you have. The next one is influencer. Obviously, when you talk about influencer, you always remember Instagram influencers, right? Now everybody is in trend. Now you're like, okay, Instagram influencer. Why do you call them Instagram influencer or like influencer, right? Basically, why do you give that name? That's because person A, person B, right? You have a story. Person A will tell a story, very simple story, in a simple way. Person B will tell a simple story in a magnanimous way, right? So that's how they become influencer. Person A is just simply telling simple story. He's just telling what it is. But the person B is exaggerating, and he's exactly telling how you feel, and he's making it more easier, and he's making you to feel that, right? That's where the influencer, the name called influencer comes. So when you see great leaders, be it politicians or anybody who is a great speaker or who is motivating a certain amount of people generally in the society, are great influencers. If he's able to tell the story and he's able to touch um, the lives of the people who is around him, he's going to be a great influencer, right? The next one is decision maker. You need to be a quick decision maker when you're handling different projects or in life in general, right? You have so many issues that come into picture, and you really don't know exactly what kind of decision, and you try evaluating, okay, what will be the pros and cons if I'm taking this decision, right? So when you're doing that in life, it's pretty easy in project too. You try to go with the fact-based. Fact-based is nothing but you try to evaluate if that's right or not. And what if we are taking this path? What is the impact that it's creating for the project? How is it beneficial for the whole project itself, right? So that, I think, decision making is one biggest asset that any team leader or project manager should have. The other one is political and cultural awareness. Political and cultural awareness is nothing but when you are working in a certain organization, you need to understand the culture of it. Few organizations are very free cultured, and they might have different business processes, and few might not be free cultured. I mean, there are several different types of organizations, right? And they have different political. When I'm saying political awareness, you need to know the hierarchy of the company. There might be vice president, directors, then program managers, project managers, then comes technical team or support team. You need to understand exactly how the organization hierarchy is flowing. Only then you will be the great influencer. When you're talking to a certain person, you will be able to talk in their language, in their body language, right? The next one is clear objectives. You need to make sure that you're communicating the clear objectives to the other person, and they understand what kind of needs or requirements or what kind of work we are trying to convey to the other person. The next one is trust building. Trust building, you will be like, what, trust building? Do I work for trust building? No, I work for salary. It's not that, because every small business or large businesses are based on trust. Only trustworthy person will be able to communicate well, and he will be able to convince the business partners to invest, because it's related with money, right? So you need to build certain trust around the teams that you're working with and that comfort level that you're working with. The next one is conflict management. When I'm talking about conflict management, I always say that they are the problem solvers. So what is a problem solver, right? Suppose for example, you have a team, and you're having two teammates who are actually not good in terms with each other, right? But you really need both of them in the team. So what do? You make sure that they know their strengths and how important are they contributing to that project, and make sure that they really understand about it, right? And make sure how important for them is to collaborate with each other for this project to happen. So you obviously need to be more patient when you're doing conflict management. I think that's altogether a different subject. It's a very big subject, actually, when you're dealing with project management. So I'm just cutting short and letting you know that it's just a problem solver, and then you're kind of you're trying to basically make sure that the team is working for a certain objective and not derailing from the goals, right? The next one is coaching. When we are talking about coaching, you obviously would be like, oh, so coaching is nothing but you're talking to people, you're just giving lessons and lessons. No, I think a good coaching person would always listen to their employees, and then he would understand what they're going through. If there are any issues, if there are any questions, if there are any help that they might need it from you. And when they have any kind of creative ideas around the table, right? When you're entering into an organization, there are different people who bring different ideas, creative ideas onto the table, right? So you need to listen to them, and you need to evaluate that. And then if that creative idea you're unable to like apply that currently, right? You need to give them constructive feedback where you're not snapping them. That's one important thing when you're going into a team, right? You need to make sure that they're valued. The next one is tone, right? When you're talking to a certain amount of people, you need to make sure you're not aggressive, you're addressing the problem and resolving it. Patience, obviously. So when you're dealing with different projects and different people, you need to have n amount of patience that you need to make sure that you have. And as I already spoke about, organized, that's one thing. You need to be very organized. Proficiency is nothing but you need to have good subject knowledge when you're going into any kind of domain or industry that you're dealing with. And collaborative. It again comes back into team building, collaborative efforts. The last one is documentation. I think most of the people don't emphasize on documentation, but according to my personal experience, at least, most of the industries are really focusing on documentation nowadays. Because if you're able to document well the project phases and how you have executed it, it is always helpful for the next projects which are coming up. And it is always helpful for them to budget next year, like next fiscal year, basically. So in my personal experience, I think most of the industries or companies are investing more on persons who can document well, right? Who can actually prepare some templates and who can kind of write down through the procedures that they've already done through. So, yeah. So I think we have gone through project management and project manager. What are the important things that you might need to go through? Just go through Agile Scrum certifications and try to browse through a few certifications which might be helpful for you guys, even if you are going into a technical as a technical developer or any other area. But I think always having a project management certification is a good way of going into the career. You might become leads or team leads in your future. So I would always recommend you guys to kind of explore through this career path as well, which will be helpful for you guys in long term. Now, we'll come to the subject called management information systems, right? What is a management information systems? When you're talking about the definition, I think you talk more about set of systems and procedures to gather data from different range of data will be gathered together, and you wanted to compile it in one place in a readable format that will help you to make the business decisions. You're like, oh, it's so complex, right? So I will tell you how you can break this down. You have three components, which is management, information, and systems, right? Now, what is a management information systems? You will obviously you'll obviously, when you're talking about management, till now we have already spoken about that, right? Just a second, sorry about that. Yeah. So when you're talking about management information systems, you always need to make sure that you're segregating all the three. Management is nothing but, as we have already gone through, it's about planning, organizing, and then resourcing, and then control assessment, and everything, right? Whatever you have gone through till now. But what is information? Today, every organization or business is running on the basis of data, right? Data is very important. They're collecting all the data. Now, when you're talking about data, you have many different datas, right? Like, be it healthcare data, be it user information. Suppose you're using Facebook, right? That's a user information that you're giving. You're giving your name, email, everything is being processed. So Facebook is actually collecting your data, right? So not just Facebook, I think most of the applications, even Zoom is actually collecting the data, just for your kind of information. Huh? So everybody's collecting your data. Now, how do they know how many people are actually using the application? What number of age, like age range is actually using the application? What kind of gender is using the application? Like how many people, what is the percentage of gender, like huge percentage of gender using the application? So many things they're collecting, right? Now they have a system which is basically structuring all this raw data which is collected. And it's structuring in a way that I'm able to see and tell, okay, so this is the percentage of females that actually is using the application, right? And this is the percentage of be it 60 years or 17 years is using the application. So I know the statistics, who is using the data. So that's called management information systems, right? You're basically processing the raw unstructured data and putting it into a report or dashboard and making sure I know exact numbers of my product. And now, when I know the exact numbers of my product, I would take the better business decisions, right? Now I know exactly where should I advertise about my product, or what should I even do? What are my next steps? What are my next business steps, right? So for example, there is a sales inventory system where you would you have n number of products, and there are different product codes for different products, right? You have, for example, let me tell you, maybe you have a chips packet and you have Coca-Cola, right? And it's going into inventory system. And when the product is in the inventory system, there is a system which all the inventory guys would enter, like the administrator of inventory would enter and tell, okay, number of chips packet and what is the product code. They would enter everything. Suppose there are 500 chips packet actually, which came into inventory system, right? Now, when they're distributing to different shops in that area, they try to enter that as well. Now they know exactly what number has actually been distributed to different shops in that area, right? And now from the shops, how many people are actually buying it, right? You only know when the pricing person, when the billing person is exactly scanning the chips packet, right? Now you know how many have been sold. So the inventory system, the inventory administrator has a system. Now the billing person has a system. You want a system to actually combine both this inventory system and billing system, and you need an exact number of how many have gone through, and how many are still left out in the inventory, right? Now, this is what is called centralization of data. So there are n number of systems which already have certain amount of data, and you are creating a system or data warehouse where all the information is flowing into one system, and it has exact number, or it is giving me exact details of what's happening in my business, right? Only then I will know, okay, so these color lace packet is actually is being sold much better, right? So now I will take a decision of making more yellow lace, right? If that's going more, then I'll make more yellow lace, or I'll kind of allocate budget more for it, right? So that's where MIS is coming into picture. Today, I think most of the huge businesses are really using MIS systems, basically. That's because one thing is that it's kind of transforming data for their organization. And it is also a machine where a system, basically, which is kind of gathering all the information and which is helping me out to take a simple decision, right? Sometimes the data which is entered might be entered wrong. So it will also make sure that it's erroring out those wrongly entered data as well. It's also finding out wrongly entered data as well. And why is I would say, what type of management information systems today are being used, right? There are lots of different types. The main three types I would like to discuss is that decision support system, executive support system, and expert support system. So these all are, again, accomplishing the same amount of procedure. They're going through the same procedure, but I think it's different people who are dealing with it makes it different. So when you're talking about executive support system, right, you're obviously talking about the senior management. So your senior management wants to see, for example, you're working in an organization and you have launched a product where a lot of people are using it. And your senior management wants to make a strategic decision, right? So when the data is being analyzed, he's letting you know how many people are actually using it and how many of this age group, of certain age group, for example, till 10 years of age group, how many people are even using it. You are designing a system where he's actually able to see the exact details and how many people are using it. Now he's obviously making sure that he's taking strategic decision according to the numbers he's seeing on the dashboard, right? When you're talking about decision support system, that's again used by the management, but it's not the senior management, right? When you're talking about expert is nothing but who is a subject matter expert, who is more proficient in that field, basically. He might not be an executive or he might not be a senior management, but he knows more about that subject and he has a decision power. So basically, the hierarchy differs in types of management system, but it's absolutely used for the same purpose, for taking strategic decisions. Now, I think we'll talk about the uses. When you're talking about the uses of MIS, right, you're obviously talking about why do we even use that? It will ensure that we have proper planning, right? We have a proper planning for our budget, for our resources, for our cost, for our resources and for our timelines, right? And we are also controlling how much production needs to go in or how much we need to reduce production. It is also minimizing information, right? Because when you have a lot of bad data over there, you wanted to make sure that you're just taking the right amount of information to make sure that you're deciding for your business and how much you need to invest in it. And as I spoke, there is a centralization of data that is the important feature in this MIS. Cost reduction, coordination, assembling process. When you're talking about assembling process, right? Assembling process is nothing but suppose there is a, for example, um, there is a business process that your business, I mean, that your team is following, or your production unit is basically following that. By seeing the numbers on the dashboard, you will understand that there is something wrong with this process. You might start redesigning the process and you will start implementing that. You will try to evaluate it again. And then you see how much the cost and how much the resources have been, like, um, have been reduced while implementing that new business process. So those are the main uses of MIS. And when you're talking about impact, you'll have very effective, efficient way, productivity, streamlining operations, right? If say if there are any kind of business process, as I was explaining, which is deviating from the exact way of performing things, I think it will streamline all the operations, and it will make sure that everything is coming together, right? Data entry. Data entry is nothing but data warehouse, basically, and improving data entry. You would not have a bad data. That's one another thing. So the impact of MIS and where it's being used. I would say most of the industries are using now MIS. I don't think even the small industries right now, even the small shops, or be it supply chain management, it has MIS, which is embedded in itself. For example, finance industry has it, marketing industry has it, manufacturing industry, while they're doing production and planning, they're having the systems. Human resources having it. When you're talking about, I can give you a great example of Amazon, right? Amazon, when you're actually selecting any kind of item from Amazon, when you're purchasing something from Amazon, right? Right from purchasing that, for example, you're purchasing some water bottle or any kind of household items, right? You're selecting that item, and after that, you're actually billing that item, right? You're doing payment in that particular web UI. Now what happens? This whole information is actually going to the data warehouse of Amazon, right? Now, when you're ordering, the bigger inventory that Amazon has, they have a different system, ERP, right? Supply chain management, they have so many systems which keep track of what kind of inventory they're getting into, how much inventory they have, and what kind of items are going away from the inventory warehouse, basically. So now, when the household item that you have ordered is going away, like is moved from the warehouse, then that's being entered into another system, right? That it's being moved from the warehouse. So now when that's being moved out, now a shipping person needs to make sure that he's delivering that to you. That's one another system where they enter your information, that the item is actually being reached out to you. Now all the informations together, like all the systems together, have a common place called data warehouse. Amazon has a data warehouse, right? So this whole data warehouse is making sure that the data is structured in such a way that business owners will be able to see the numbers. Basically, only then they can make more decisions. So I think you can start kind of a little bit researching about MIS and how it's used in every organization. It's used nowadays, so you can relate really to the real-time world now. I mean, obviously, in the industry that we are in right now, especially cybersecurity, right? Because I work in global security, Facebook. I mean, global security team in Facebook. So most of the time, when there are different products that we are evaluating to make sure that we are protecting people, assets, and company, right? We make sure that we are using a centralized system, and then we are having all the information over there. And we see the numbers and we make those decisions, like strategic decisions. What is the next move for our business, right? That's my personal experience. We have I can't reveal few things, but since they are a little bit confidential in nature in the project, but I think if you can start going through few uh, I think documentations on management information systems and what tools they are using nowadays, that's the future that we can see, because every company is focusing on physical security or security nowadays, because every system can be hacked, right? Any system can be hacked. Most of the companies are focusing on privacy nowadays. So I think it will be very helpful for you guys if you go through and do a little bit of research. You can start looking into Udemy as well. Udemy.com is one another good platform where you can start going and get. I mean, there will be few videos where expertise will talk about the cybersecurity, like security, networking, and all of that stuff. Since I have a little bit of time constraint, I can't talk about everything, but I can just give you a gist of it, where you can, start getting that enthusiasm to learn more. But I think this is a wonderful opportunity. I think I can provide you guys 15 minutes of question and answer session, where please feel free to, anybody, please feel free to ask me questions. I will be there for another 15 minutes. Yeah.
Dear participant, it is open to you. You can ask questions. If you want, you can interact with her. You can unmute yourself and speak up.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please.
I am Azharuddin.
Yes.
I'm a second year student. CSE
Hi,
department.
hi, Azhar. Yeah.
Hello. Are you?
Go ahead. Go ahead. Ask your question, please.
How you proceed this after this degree, BE degree?
Can you come again?
How do we proceed this, man? Is it you will do with some other courses, or we need certificates or anything?
Yeah. So are you asking especially like based on project management, or are you asking about MIS? Like which?
Yes.
He's asking about MIS now.
Okay. So
How to
about
proceed after completing UG degree? You
okay,
just want to
gotcha,
know.
gotcha. So I think if you want to do pursue MIS, my recommendation always would be pursue any PhD or PG or be it any kind of full-time courses, right? Because there is a lot to it. But if you're constrained, okay, I don't want to do PG, PhD, or any kind of next master's or something like that. If you're thinking, okay, I need to get it in a short-term course, you can always do MIS certification, which is always available online. You'll have a few, as I was recommending, just go through few good videos in Udemy. You will have a lot of material that will be provided by the experts that they are on, and you can start doing those certifications. And once you start paying for the certification, they will provide you the whole coursework or documentation that you need to go through. It will be very helpful for you. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Azar?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Correct.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, hello, myself Sohan. How to get an internship at Facebook?
How to get an internship at Facebook? Just go to facebook.com/careers. You can start looking into the opportunities for internship. I'm pretty sure, big companies like Google, Facebook, and all these kind of large companies, they always welcome young people. They love people who are vibrant and who are outspoken.
Yeah, I
And
got your point, but what are the prerequisites?
oh, yeah, when you're talking about prerequisites, it depends on the position that they're actually opening up, right? So it depends on the honestly, it's a very generic answer. I know that I'm answering very generally, but that's the thing. Like it's a very it depends on the job position that they're opening, and according to that, you can prepare your resume. They might ask few tools, techniques, or few few skills that they might need, and you can start leveraging yourself according to that and start putting that in resume and highlighting that, right? And you can always make sure add all the skills that you have or all the certifications that you have done, which will be a plus point for you as well. Yeah, I know this is very generic answer, but again, there is no correct way of answering this question, I guess, because there are different
I
job positions.
understand. Okay, yeah, thank you for answering.
Thanks, Owen. Yeah. Okay, seems like Surya or somebody is trying to talk.
Surya, do you want to talk? Okay. Okay, thank you. If no further questions, we have come to the end of session. Thank you, Monica. It was a wonderful session and very informative. And now I call upon Dr. S. Karthikeyan sir, FIE Head II Coordinator, to deliver the word of
On
thanks.
behalf of the management of Sathyabama Institute of Science and Technology, I thank Monica Satyani for her wonderful speech and so interesting. And we had a number of examples like classroom. So it is quite interesting as well as it is quite interesting to our students also. It is a wonderful experience that this is a new area where till now we haven't touched this area, management oriented activities as well as how to go with MIS and other things. And however, it is a great thing that you accepted on the whole within a single day you accepted, and that too I have to thank because of the timing. It is around 3 a.m. you accepted and you started up your webinar. Thank you. It's an excellent webinar. Really, I appreciate you for your valuable contribution. These things
Thank
will be published in a magazine also. We'll send a copy of the magazine. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining, and Karthikeyan sir, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And thank you for all the students who have joined. I know it's 101. I've seen few people dropping up, but then I think it's more than one.
No, it was 130
Yes,
around.
130. So thank you for everybody. Yeah, it's a
Thank-
pleasure and honor coming back to the college where I have studied and giving the seminar. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Yes, ma'am. Bye.
So, dear participants, thank you for your wonderful participation. We have posted the feedback and the attendance form in the chat box. You can fill that, and you will be receiving your participation certificates in a day or two. Also, the recording of this session will be uploaded in the Sathyabama IAA student branch YouTube channel.